Good afternoon. This is the House Appropriations Committee. It is Monday, February 3rd, 2025. A bit after 1:30, we had a little adventure with our IT, and it's all fixed and we are ready to go. So committee, we have a bunch of things. Do we get the language yet?
It's on its way currently.
Okay. All right. So what we will have is we have a copy of the updated web report. It was updated over the weekend as promised. And we have some spreadsheets, and Emily will go over them. And then we'll have the language. And then once all that comes in and we've gone over the numbers, we're going to go off live to let everybody go and read things. And then we'll come back in I'm hoping by maybe around 3:30, we'll check in at 3:30 and see if people are ready to go at that point, because this has to go to editing and get out tonight so it can be on the calendar tomorrow. It'll be on notice tomorrow. It's going to go to Ways and Means, who are going to look at it very quickly, get it out tomorrow. And so we'll keep us on our schedule for this to be on the floor Thursday and Friday. So that is what our plan is. Before I turn this over to Emily to go over the numbers, I just want to remind returning members and let new members know we have this thing called Budget Buddies. And so it's very scientific. I get the chairs and Erin goes through the alphabetical list of 150 names and goes through our names and gives everybody a chunk of names. And so she and I worked on that a little bit. She did the work this morning and she will email them out to you. And once this is done and we actually have the links to all of the documents, I guess I'm trying to remember, I think last year we may have sent an email out to the whole body, but then each of you could sort of forward that to your budget buddies and say, hi, I'm your budget buddy. What this means is that you are their contact if they have questions about anything that's in there. So you're just kind of the liaison if they have questions. Some people have questions, some people you never hear from. So, but we like to try to make those connections so people at least know they have somebody that they can talk to.
And if I could just add, if you get questions, if it's not your area of the budget and you don't feel comfortable giving the full explanation, that's when you refer it to, oh, that's Mike's area. It has something to do with IT. So, I mean, you would give it to Mike or you would give it to Trevor if it was judiciary or natural resources. But there's some questions obviously you can answer.
I assume we have a good list of who everybody's areas are.
We have that list and we posted it on our website. So it looks like this.
It should be right in the
It should be on our website because Erin has done that as well. So if you need to take a look at that, that's there also. When I've done this, I almost never hear from anybody, but at least they know they can contact me if there's questions. So it's just one more way to reach out to let everybody know. So Erin will send that out and then you can just say, hi, I'm your budget buddy. Let's read the links. So now that's that, and we'll turn it over to Emily.
Great, thank you. So for the record, Emily Byrne from the Joint Fiscal Office. You should have 3 familiar looking pieces of paper in front of you. And I will just really quickly go through them and you can use them when you're reviewing the bill. But the first one we'll do is the reversions one, which is green at the top. This has all of those reversions that are listed in section D 102 part A. And you'll see in here the sort of additions and subtractions that the House made to the governor's recommend. So that includes the $3 million from that AOA Finance Agency one-time debt ID that was reverted and then is transferred into the State Liability Insurance Fund. That came up at the end of last week. And then the 2 changes, the not doing the reversions from the judiciary. And then there's language in the bill that reallocates or redesignates those one-time appropriations to allow them to spend those funds. So those are the only changes from the governor's recommend.
Is this one too? Oh, let's see, I thought we were missing a few.
There's 2 pages, yeah.
Excited there.
Excited. The next one we'll do is this looks very similar with yellow and orange boxes. These are the transfers and the direct app changes. There are no changes to the direct applications, but there is one, I just mentioned it, that $3 million transfer to the state liability self-insurance fund. I was talked about at the end of last week. That's the only change here.
So,
Yep.
Sorry.
The very bottom, line 18. $3 million.
He did.
You did.
From the governor's record. I was gonna say, there were a lot of changes that were made to the budget adjustment, but those were the governor's recommended
Correct.
pieces. So like the 18.5 million is that medical capitalization, like medical premiums, so that we had Adam and Beth Stigian to talk about it. So all of those should look fairly familiar because we've had those conversations.
Yep.
I have a question.
Yeah, Lynn?
As passed means that was in the budget originally.
Correct.
And the
Yes.
governor had his, and the things that are different are what?
Are ones that the governor is proposing making changes to.
And then different, so the last column is our change.
Yes, from what the governor put forward.
That's right. And we're doing the number, line 18. I don't know if you were online at that time, Lynn, you might have been, but that was, yes, exactly. So we're pulling it out of the section C of next year's budget and just moving it up, the timing.
Yep.
So that's all that's happening there. It's not a brand new out of the blue thing, but we're agreeing and saying, let's do it now.
Yep.
And then the direct apps were all reductions of this.
Just refresh me, line 7, what's ERAF?
Emergency Relief and Assistance Fund for most of it's used for matching FEMA dollars often, and it's the money that when there's a disaster and there's a FEMA declaration, typically there's a 75-25, or if it's a major disaster, there's a 90-10 match, and the match, this is one where there's like kind of a double match, if you will. So there's a local match, which can be state or local, and the state and shares with local governments, the non-federal share, that's the better way to phrase it. And ERAF is the funding stream for the non-federal share of match for FEMA funds. So it's both the July 2024 and 23 floods, I believe is what that money is.
So we've increased it.
Yeah. Because we will need more match this year,
Right, okay.
help the towns.
Help the towns. Right.
Keep track of the capital, so it's
Yes.
to relieve, what's the?
And assistance fund.
Assistance.
I can spell that one out.
Emily, I also say it gets a little confusing when you're looking at negative, and you end up with a lower negative.
Yeah,
I think I understand it, but like on that ERAF, it's passed last year as a minus point or 800,000, and then we added 6.5 million to end up at minus. No, I'm saying this wrong.
yep, you added 5.7 to get you to,
An expense of
Okay,
6.5,
okay.
two expenses.
Okay.
and the ones that are negative, they're because it's coming out of the general fund and going to the other funds. So it's a subtraction from the general fund versus when the money comes into the general fund, it's a positive to the general fund.
So it's reducing general fund availability by those amounts. So on the other hand, line 11 is that wet fund that we're closing that account. And so 2.6 million is coming in for general fund.
Correct.
So, not to belabor it, so we have to list all the ones that didn't change from Act 113.
They're just listed so that from a big picture, these are all of the reversions that are happening in FY25 to get you to the total amount that'll be transferred in the fiscal year.
If they weren't here, like the first one, fire prevention, it wouldn't change it.
That's right.
This is more from if you looked at the operating statement, this is how much in the total, the whole FY25, you're gonna transfer this much money out of the general fund.
Which I actually like because when we talk about the ups and downs that we get from the committees, we don't, the agencies, we don't see the bigger picture. We just see this is going up $10 and that's going down $10. So, okay.
So on the ERAF, there's mixing of 75, 25, and 90, 10 in that, so we actually can't calculate how much federal money that this is gonna leverage, right?
No, I don't, yeah, it depends on the disaster. It depends on, there's also, and don't want to speak too far out of turn, but with ERAF, there are certain work, like the non-federal match that the state contributes depends on some activities in the towns specifically, like adopting plans and doing sorts of things. So the match is,
I figured out.
could be anything.
And Emily, while we're on here, can you remember what lines 13 and 14 were about? Because we did it and now we're taking back what we did. We're adding it back to the general fund.
Yep, so in Act 181 was when we had the change to the property transfer tax.
Yes.
And the way that the property transfer tax change happened in that bill, because it was not clear if it was gonna pass, like if it would become law or not. It did become law, and then to sort of true it up in the Act 180, in the property transfer tax section of the Budget Adjustment Act, and sort of cleaning up some of those issues, that transfer goes away because it's taken care of in that.
So it was kind of, it was done twice, so we needed to take back
Yeah,
these two. Okay.
Yeah.
So it also done in the budget. Okay.
yeah,
So that's line 12,
13 and 14.
okay, 13.
Can I ask what?
There's
line-
language on it.
It's line 10,
Line 10.
financial.
Yep, there was 1.1 million from the Financial Institutions Fund, which is one of the funds that Department of Financial Regulation has.
That was last year.
That was
That was
last, we didn't make any
Yeah.
changes.
Okay.
So if we just look at the difference from as passed, that's where the changes
Right, I
happen.
saw that. I was just curious
Yeah.
as what that was. I didn't recall.
Right. And the tobacco fund,
The tobacco fund,
money back to the tobacco fund?
they had, in the, as passed, we had taken money from the tobacco fund.
Right.
And then, in the testimony, we heard from finance and management, the projected balance in that fund was gonna go negative, so they got rid of that transfer out of the tobacco fund.
That was like it never happened.
Yeah.
Okay, any other questions on transfers? Okay. The direct apps we talked about with sports wagering, lottery, liquor, DFR, and the one that went up was unclaimed property.
I have a question on the revisions.
Okay.
No numbers on here, but before we go down, the tuition assistant program. $133,000 plus. What was that for?
Maria looked into that one.
Yeah,
She didn't
so
know.
I am going to jump in here. Here, when we have the collective bargaining agreement, there's a certain amount put in there for tuition reimbursement for staff, state employees to go and go back to school, and there's an ability to get reimbursed for the tuition reimbursement. And that was an amount that was left over, and so that's what it is, it's the
Okay,
non-pay portion of
Okay.
pay act. I think, yeah, it's from 2 years ago. Anyway, that's what it is.
so it's state employees, it's not nursing programs and for us at college, which is what, I went the same place
Yeah.
as you did, yes.
It's
State, okay. Okay. Other question I had on this when I was. Commission on Women was a 25,000 version. Does that, we know, it's not one of the ones we talked about with Adam, and I kind of noticed it last night. I don't know if we know anything about that one.
I don't know anything about that one. You can find out.
Okay.
Who has the commission?
What's the Commission on Women? Is it a separate?
I don't know about it.
I don't know that it's a separate, it should be a separate.
It should.
Yeah, like, did I leave the Commission on Women? Carrie had it last year. Here it is. Mike Mariki has the Vermont Commission. Do you know anything about that 25,000?
I don't, but
It sounds like Maria will check that out for us.
Yeah.
It's not one that any of us happen to notice when we see it in big print, 14-point font or whatever this is, 20, whatever. I almost don't need my glasses. It's great.
And I'm not sure they do either, because I had checked in with
Gary?
Carrie
Okay,
and asked if they had any questions, and I was gonna be that person. She didn't. But I can follow up.
Okay.
I can check with Maria.
great.
She-
Okay, let me see if I can find.
Okay. And are there any other um, Trevor, A&R admin management and planning, it's on this backside for 402,000.
Yeah, I had reached out to them. It's a whole.
It's a lot of stuff.
And they're fine. with it.
And they're fine with it. Well, somebody might ask me for, we'll see.
I have.
You have all the good
I have
detail,
the
that's
detail.
good. As long as you have it. And I guess the only other one that I was thinking about was the Everyone Eats. And no, didn't hear anybody come to the committee and say, oh my gosh, we're reverting 144,000 for Everyone Eats, but
That was a commerce thing during COVID and it probably ended. They were gonna provide.
sometimes,
Restaurants.
sometimes, I think we've been funding that.
They've been coming here. after.
Right, so I was a little surprised to see that on here because
I don't remember what
I
happened.
had not to hear from anybody that says, what
Right.
are you doing reverting that from? So, Maria, if you don't mind finding that one out too.
Yes.
That'd be great. Okay. We'll just continue, but those two would be good. So if you have any other questions on these, just ask Maria what they are, or Emily, and then we'll figure out what the answers are, because we don't know where we're gonna get questions. Anything else on the reversions or the direct apps at this point, Emily?
Nothing that I've got.
We should go over the big one then.
Yeah, so then this is the big sheet, summary of the budget adjustment. Should look familiar.
Yep.
There aren't, a lot of things to point out. Not much has changed on this since the last time I presented it. So we've got the changes for the state's attorneys in terms of, base changes. Those are the only changes to the base. The money, and then if we go down into the one-time section, so like line 62 is where you see the net $6 million increase for the provider stabilization grants. The $11 million for the Brattleboro Retreat Alternative Payment Model Reconciliation, the funds for the GA, extending the cold weather exemption, removing the bond redemption backfill for the treasurer's office for $14 million, the money for VHCB for both the pilot project and additional funding for housing. Shrink the digits on that.
Lots of.
Yeah, that would be reconciling
Yeah.
yesterday. Clean that up for the final one that gets
Okay.
posted. And then $3 million, the transfer that's going to the insurance reserve fund. Down below the updated forecast we've talked about, the additional reversions, this adds in this was, I think, 18 on the last version. This adds the $3 million reversion that funds the insurance reserve transfer that's above. So after all of those transactions and changes, and the updated revenue forecast, the governor had recommended $87.25 million be dropped to the bottom line and reserved for spending in FY 2026. With the new revenue forecast and additional changes, that's at $133.59 million. Projected at the end of FY 25.
So the last sheet you looked at, it said 144. So I'm wondering about that. 144 did not include the 11 million reconciliation with the Brattleboro Retreat. Right. So when you subtract that out, this is where we are. The Brattleboro Retreat is in the FY 26 budget. We pulled it into FY 25.
Yeah. Thank you.
It's really nice when you can actually have an answer. Yeah. So that's what the actual number is. Is that making sort of sense to people? Okay. Great. Thank you, Emily.
Yeah.
I see Grady is here to hand us out some pieces of paper. 69 pages. It's not too bad. Because I think the one that you got with all the explanation is 43. That's the number in the front. Right.
Is this on our webpage?
No, it's not.
Okay.
We can send you an electronic copy.
Would you?
That would be great.
Easier to.
Thank you.
We don't put it on the website till it's
It's been-
done by the committee.
Okay,
Or actually, it doesn't go, the bill itself doesn't go up until it's introduced.
right. So it actually won't be on our website probably until tomorrow because it's introduced tomorrow. But yeah, Dave definitely needs an electronic copy. So
Yeah.
that'd be great. And how about the spreadsheets, Dave? Would you like those electronically as well?
That would be great if we could,
Okay,
but I did have, yeah,
they're the ones you just handed out. Okay, the spreadsheets are on the website, Dave.
thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Grady, and thank you all for working over the weekend to get this to us. I was having some back and forth and when I had questions, these guys had answers, so it was great. So we will go off live unless anybody has any questions. But if you find things or have questions about it, we've got the JFO staff here to answer them for you. And let's come back at 3:30 and check in and see where everybody is and if they're ready to vote.